Alright, what's happening everybody? It's your man Akeem and welcome to today's vlog. We are about a month away from the beginning of the college football season and I am so excited and I know that you guys are eager to see what will happen this season. Now it's time for me to give you my previews of all the BCS conferences. Today I'm going to talk about the Big 12 conference, which is pretty much the Big 10 conference because Colorado went to the Pac-12 and Nebraska went to the Big 10, which is now like the Big 12 now. Big 10 is now the Big 12 and the Big 12 is now the Big 10. A little bit confusing, but I'm going to talk about the Big 12 conference that I'm going to talk about, including Texas and Oklahoma, the southern teams. I'm still going to call them the Big 12 conference. Now, I still think this is a great conference, one of the best conferences in the nation, and they have a couple of powerhouse teams and teams in the upbringing. Now, the storylines for this conference is that the Oklahoma Sooners, they have the preseason #1 ranking nationally, the #1 team in the nation, and they do deserve this. They have so much talent on both sides of the ball, with Landry Jones leading the offensive side and Travis Lewis, their star linebacker, is leading the way for the defense. They have explosive players and explosive offense, and I really think they could run the table and make it to that national championship. I think Bob Stoops has the tools and he has the brains to lead this team to the promised land, to the BCS championship. Now, hopefully, their luck will change in the BCS national championship and for them to win. Now, in previous years, seasons where they went to the national championship, they ended up losing. But this year, their luck might just change. But we will see. Now, in Missouri, they need a new quarterback to lead the team. Blaine Gabbert went to the NFL. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And his little brother, Tyler Gabbert, he decided to transfer to Louisville. So they really need to fill in the void at the quarterback position. And a couple of players that they're looking at is freshmen James Franklin and Austin Glasser and junior Jimmy Costello. All three of these guys are going to duel it out for that #1 quarterback job. And this is going to be a tough spring for these guys, and they all did pretty well. So it's pretty tough to decide who's going to be that #1 guy, but we will see. And another team I want to talk about is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They have a great explosive offense, but they no longer have offensive coordinator Danger Hogerstein, who went to the West Virginia Mountaineers. Now, they really need to adjust to the new offensive system with their new coordinator, and I think Brandon Weeden does have the tools to reach the same stats that he has last season. He passed for just over 4,200 yards passing. He had a great year, and I think he could connect with Justin Blackman in just about any offense, and I think both of them two can link together with a new offensive system, but we will see. Now, the biggest story in the Big 12 Conference is the Texas Longhorns and how Coach Mack Brown might be in the hot seat this season. Last season, they had a losing record and did not make it to a bowl game. Now, the problem is starting with their quarterback. They still do not know who's going to be their starter this season. Now, I'm pretty sure, and everybody else is pretty sure, that Garrett Gilbert will get that starting nod because he has the most experience. Now, in that national championship against Alabama 2 seasons ago, he showed a lot of promise, but last season he did not live up to expectations and he had a terrible year. They ended up not making it to a bowl game, and that has not happened in years. Plus, the offensive line for the Texas Longhorns has been playing terrible, horrific. They have not had a 1,000-yard rusher in a couple of seasons, which is very rare for a school who developed a lot of great running backs like Jamal Charles, Cedric Benson, Ricky Williams, back in the day with Earl Campbell. They had a lot of great running backs at Texas. Hodges Mitchell, for another example. Now, this is pathetic, and they really need a good runner to get to 1,000 yards, and it all starts with that offensive line, and they really need a lot of help. I'm pretty disappointed in my Texas Longhorns, and we will see what will happen this season. Now, a couple of quarterbacks who are battling the job with Gilbert are Connor Woods and Colt McCoy's little brother, Case McCoy. All three of these have an equal shot of being that #1 starter, but I think that Mack Brown's definitely going to go with Gilbert to get that starting nod. Now, a couple of key games I want to talk about are on December 3rd, Oklahoma is going to face Oklahoma State, and also one of the biggest games of the season for Oklahoma for them to run that table is on September 17th when they have to go in Tallahassee and face Florida State University and E.J. Manuel and company. Now, I really think they have a chance of winning that game, so I'm going to go with Oklahoma too, but I will keep you posted on that preview as well. And other key games are just all the other key games is the Texas versus BYU on September 8th. Now, that's going to really show how well this Texas team is. They're ranked 20 in the nation, and they really need to stay in the rankings. And if they beat BYU, that could also boost up their confidence and get the ball rolling for them. But if they lose, they could have a down season. But we will see. And pretty much the key games for this Big 12 conference all involves the Oklahoma schools and the Texas schools, Texas A&M and Texas. Now, Missouri is still a decent team, and Kansas State is coming up as well. But the main games to watch are the teams involved in Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. Now, there are a couple of newcomers that are entering the Big 12 conference that I want to talk about. 3 players that I have in particular are Arthur Brown, the linebacker, who's now playing for the Kansas State Wildcats. He transferred from Miami, and he's still a great back. He was one of the top prospects in the nation, and I think he could be a great newcomer in the Big 12 conference on the defensive side of the ball. And offensively, Oklahoma picked up running back Brandon Williams, and I think he could be in a great rotation with Roy Finch. Roy Finch is still a good back, and I think he's going to get that starting nod. But Brandon Williams will definitely get a lot of touches as a true freshman. And my Texas Longhorns, they picked up Malcolm Brown, one of the top running backs last season in college, in high school. The number 2, to be exact, out of high school, behind Isaiah Crowell out of Georgia. Now, Malcolm Brown, he's quick, he's a big, strong guy, and I think he could actually get the starting nod right away and get to that 1,000-yard mark. But we will see. But it all depends on the offensive line for the Texas Longhorns. A couple of impact players for the Big 12 Conference to look at is Cyrus Gray out of Texas A&M. He rushed for over 1,100 yards, and in the last 7 games of the season, he rushed for over 100 yards. He had a great year. But also you need to keep in mind is that Christian Michael is also coming back from injuries last season, and he will definitely be a great duo with Cyrus Gray, and I think both of them will be a good complement to one another. But Cyrus Gray is looking forward to an explosive senior season, and look out for Cyrus Gray. And of course, Landry Jones, I mentioned him earlier, out of Oklahoma. He had 38 touchdown passes last season, and he's definitely a Heisman candidate right away. Great quarterback, and his main top target, Brian Broyles, he's a great All-American. He was an All-American last season, and he's definitely a first-day pick in the NFL next season when he comes out. And Justin Blackman from Oklahoma State, he's definitely one of the best top wide receiver prospects coming into the NFL at the end of this season. All the scouts are definitely looking at him. He's a Biletnikoff Award winner, All-American, great guy. And plus, speaking of Oklahoma State, I mentioned Brandon Weeden, 4,200 yards passing. He had a great year, and these two are a great combination to one another. So those are a couple of key players to look at. And also in Oklahoma State, look out for Joseph Randall, the running back, to replace Kendall Hunter. Kendall Hunter rushed for over 1,500 yards, and I think Randall has the capability to get the same amount of numbers that Kendall had last season. Now, at the end of the day, my overall winner, I'm going to go with Oklahoma University. They just have so much talent on this team. So I think the winner of the Big 12 conference is Oklahoma. My coach of the year, I'm going to change it up a little bit. If Texas A&M only has 1 loss in the season, I think the coach of the year should go to Mike Sherman for turning their team around. Mike Sherman ended up bringing up Texas A&M last season as a good sleeper, and it basically came out of nowhere. Ryan Tannehill is coming back. Jeff Fuller, his top target, plus the running backs Christian Michael and Cyrus Gray. They have a great offense. They need to replace someone for Von Miller on the defensive side, but I think Mike Sherman is definitely going to take care of that. So I have to go with Mike Sherman as the coach of the year. Newcomer of the year, I'm going to go with my Texas player, Malcolm Brown. Mainly because Texas has a 1,000-yard rushing, and I think he can start right away and get more carries. An honorable mention is Brandon Weeden and Arthur Brown, who I mentioned earlier. Brandon Williams and Arthur Brown. But I think Malcolm Brown is definitely going to get the newcomer of the year. That's my opinion. And the offensive player of the year, Landry Jones. He should have another big season. So much talent around him. There's just pretty much no excuse. I think he will definitely go to New York for the Heisman ceremony. And the defensive player of the year, I'm going to go with Travis Lewis, the linebacker for Oklahoma. He's a true leader, great leader for this team, and he's an NFL prospect that everybody should definitely look at. An honorable mention for defensive player of the year is Brad Madison from Missouri. But I'm definitely going to have to go with Travis Lewis. There's just so much talent in Oklahoma, and he's a great leader for this team. Now, for tomorrow's video, I'm going to go back to the NFL Fantasy League and talk about my top wide receivers. And on Wednesday, I'm going to give you my preview of the SEC Conference. Thank you for watching today's vlog. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.